Mm-mm-mm. Man, oh man. Me and Strack need to do a new episode, a new call As the World Burns. I mean, it's just like crazy what's going on right now in the world at large. So, listen, I said I was going to post at least once a day for 100 days, and I was going to talk about a lot of stuff. So today, we're going to talk. This is day 11 of 100 days, and this has been fun. This has been interesting. Day 11 of 100 days. Welcome to CNN. Kurt in. I'm your host, Kurt Kennedy. Let's go in. The Dalai Lama. You know, there are a few. I've actually until this I had this thought today. I don't think I've ever thought what I'm about to say right now before until today. I am grateful for Jesus for this reason. I've never been grateful to the Lord for this reason until today. I am grateful that Jesus was not married. And I'm going to explain why by the time we get to the end of this. I'm grateful. I'm actually grateful that Jesus wasn't married. Not because I have an issue with marriage. You know, my wife gets on my nerves and I get on hers, but I love her. And other people. I help a lot of people in their marriages. It's not about marriage at all. But I'm grateful that Jesus did not get married. All right. So let me tell you why. Dalai Lama. Now I'll be honest, I don't pay attention to the Dalai Lama at all. I know that for some people, he is a holy, righteous man that they follow. He's in his early 80s. He looks like he's in impeccable shape. That dude looks like he could star in a kung fu flick right now and be one of them dudes that be walking on top of stuff. And I mean, he looks in impeccable shape. I got to give him that. But let's talk about what just happened with the Dalai Lama. And I don't know what religion he is. I don't follow any of that stuff. I think, unfortunately, he's going to stand before the one true God, and it's going to be curtains for him. Sandman Sims, Apollo Theater, dun 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 dun. If you know, you know. All right, here's what happened with the Dalai Lama, and this is just apologies for the graphics. I'm getting there. All right. The Dalai Lama apologizes after video shows him telling boy, suck my tongue. During a February event, the Dalai Lama asked the boy to kiss him on the lips and stuck out his tongue. And suck my tongue, he added, prompting laughter in the audience. Right? So, Tibetan spiritual leader, the Dalai Lama apologized Monday after a video showing him kissing a child on the lips triggered criticism. A statement posted on his official website said, I said early 80s. He's on the back end. 87-year-old leader regretted the incident and wished to apologize to the boy and his family, as well as his many friends across the world, for the hurt his words may have caused. The incident occurred at a public gathering in February at the Suglakang Temple in Dharamsala. Y'all couldn't say it either. Where the exiled leader lives. He was taking questions from the audience when the boy asked if he could hug him. The Dalai Lama invited the boy up toward the platform he was seated on. In the video, he gestured to his cheek, after which the child kissed him before giving him a hug. The Dalai Lama then asked the boy to kiss him on the lips and stuck out his tongue and suck my tongue. The Dalai Lama can be heard saying as the boy sticks out his tongue, leans in, and prompts laughter from the audience. The footage triggered backlash online, with social media users condemning his behavior as inappropriate and disturbing. His holiness often teases people he meets in an innocent and playful way, even in public and before cameras, the statement from the Dalai Lama said. Okay. So here's the thing. This is a real question. I'm going to ask a real. I'm being dead serious. I've been thinking about this all day, and there's some connections I have, and some I'm still wrestling with. But this is a real question. What is the deal with sex and religion? Right? What is the deal with sex and religion? All right. Let's assume. Let's be charitable. Right? Let's assume the Dalai Lama was just kidding. Right? Now, here's my perspective, and this is about the Dalai Lama, but it's more than the Dalai Lama. But I just want to say this one thing about the Dalai Lama because we're going to move on because I want to ask a real question and see what's happening here. The Dalai Lama, okay, they call him His Holiness, right? Now, to me, holiness is righteousness, right? And there's a degree of wisdom. Like you're not righteous, and when I think of Jesus, my God, I think He's holy, He's righteous. Wisdom, perfect in wisdom, right? So, an 87-year-old man asking a boy to kiss him on the lips and suck his tongue, at the very least, it lacks wisdom. Now, the people there bust out in laughter, and I think that happened for a couple reasons. Now, again, I'm not there, I'm not the Lord. I think people bust out in laughter, one, because it's just awkward and you kind of want it to not be like anything crazy. And so you just kind of laugh like, because you know he's got to be kidding. You're laughing at the absurdity of the potential reality of him wanting a boy to suck his tongue, right? And then two, you're laughing because you are confident in the reputation that this man has. But we really don't know his heart, his motive. And who knows, what that really meant. But this is bigger than the Dalai Lama to me. It's a question. What is the deal with sex and religion? What is the deal? There's something about and think about this for a second. Walk with me for a second. You watch and walk with me, right? Or sit with me, watch with me, whatever, right? Think about this for a second. If you think about the majority of religious cults, the religious leader, there's always some aspect of gratuitous sexuality with the leader. Like always. And we're going to walk through this in just a second. But this is a serious question, and because even in the Bible, as far back as Genesis 6, you remember, and now you may not believe this from your interpretation. I am of the interpretation that angels in Genesis 6 are the sons of God who left heaven, became human in form. They could do that. Angels often appear as human beings, had sex with women, and then had an offspring called the Nephilim, right? There was something about wanting to have sex with women, seeing that the sons of God, sons of man were beautiful, right? And they wanted to take for them wives as they could. They wanted to have sex with these women. These were divine beings where sexuality was not for that kingdom, right? So I'm thinking heaven, upper kingdom, earth, lower kingdom. So sex is predominantly a lower kingdom activity. Jesus said that angels are not given into heaven, or given into marriage, and so there's an assumption that it's not sex in heaven. It's not like angels are looking at each other like, "Dang, girl, what you trying to do after we run around these clouds?" That's not what's happening, right? It's really a lower kingdom activity. But it was enough for divine beings in the upper kingdom to leave that kingdom and come to the lower kingdom just for the purpose of that. Like, what is the deal with sex and religion, right? If you're a cross-examiner, right? Me and Strack a few months ago, we did a episode on a documentary we saw on Netflix called Surviving La Luz del Mundo. La Luz del Mundo in Spanish means the light of the world. This is a Latino denomination that is huge in Latin America and has churches in Northern America. In fact, Strack, who lives in Lancaster, said there's a church in his city that's one of their churches. This documentary was crazy, and it was completely about the religious leaders. They call them I think they call them the holy ones, right? These men, I'm talking about grown men, like grandfather, like wanting and having sex, manipulating young girls, not even like grown women, like straight like the Latino R. Kelly type vibes, right? I'm talking about they were manipulating and using their religious authority. And the person who started it had been doing it for decades. When he named his son the next apostle, that's what they call him, the holy apostle. When he named his son, he was doing it. And it was this documentary, it was sad. And it were these young women who were forced to engage in, I'm talking about young. Like these dudes were trying to get girls like 9 and 10. Now, let me just say this. I know that that's a genuine struggle for people. So that's not my struggle by the grace of God. It's just not what I struggle with. But here's the thing though. I don't get the fascination with wanting to be intimate with a child at 9 or 10 years old. They're not developed. There's nothing about that I just, but these men, these holy apostles, and here, what was crazy? Here was the crazy part about this documentary. There was a point where they were talking to one woman who was explaining that all these girls would get dressed up. They would have to look really pretty and get dressed up. And they told him the holy apostle was going to choose one of you or some of you to be with him, and basically the girls knew to have sex with him, but he was much older. He was like older than their dads. And one of the little girls was like, but why? He's the holy apostle. And it was like she understood that if he's a holy apostle, like why is he wanting to have sex with us little girls, right? But this, and the whole documentary was just this. And finally, one of the dudes who was the current holy apostle, he was put in prison. It ends with him in prison, but the denomination still goes on. I have no idea if it's still happening. Like, what is the deal with sex and religion? Like, what is the deal? We all have heard countless stories of the Catholic Church, priests and nuns engaging in sexual activity with children. Like, and this is, I mean, and this is the thing, like part of what it means to be a religious leader, right? Is there is a degree in which you are committed to God. And so the character, the morality, now we all fall short. Listen, I'm not coming down the mountain with 2 stone tablets. This isn't my particular proclivity, but I'm guilty as charged in other ways and other areas, right? But there's a degree in which, we understand what it is we're doing. Like even if the Dalai Lama, I mean, honestly, he's a fraud. He's not righteous to me at all. He's no connection to Christianity, not Jesus, no nothing. But even he has a degree of morality. All people have a degree of morality. I've said this before in a previous video. Satan he has to work through the confines in which God created humanity. And we are created in the image of God. So righteous, justice, all of these things matter to us. Those things we can't get to heaven because of those things. But most people want to be good people, productive people in society. That's why there are no religions that people are just like kill people, stab, kill them. Satan can't do that because people are made in God's image. He has to work within the confines of the way God created humanity. So even false religions like the Dalai Lama's religion, there's still a degree of morality in that, right? There's something, that morality has to do with representing God. You somehow are connected to some higher power. So that higher authority means you don't submit and give in to the urges of those who are not with that type of authority. But you see this happen all the time. The Catholic Church. I mean, these people would just, and the saddest part is they'll do this for decades, get exposed, and then the archdiocese will move them to another place instead of prosecute these people. I mean, there's tons of movies. I mean, we know about this. Like, what is the deal with sex and religion? What is the deal? Angels did it. Humans do it. Like, what is the deal? We know about sex abuse in evangelical churches or pastors or leaders. Many of us were shocked when we heard about Ravi Zacharias after he passed away. Last year, the Southern Baptist Convention had a nuclear bomb dropped on their denomination, right? The denomination that I came from, Sovereign Grace Ministries, a long time ago, had some stuff explode about this. They're like, what is the deal with sex and religion? It's like there's this intrinsic connection that whenever people are in some kind of religious dynamic, the leaders within that religious dynamic, not everyone, obviously, by the grace of God, there's no woman that can say I've done that to her. No woman that can say she's been in that vibe with me. You know what I'm saying? And the way my body looks these days, no woman is going to want that but my wife. But that's a different conversation, and I'm working on it. But the reality is, there's a sense where it's just, there's something about when I'm in a religious authority, the temptation to give in to sexual sin is either greater, or I feel a sense of it, and I'm using I in hyperbole, not myself. But there's a sense of greater entitlement to sexual pleasure when I'm in authority. So this La Luz, the moon, they feel like they can have sex with young girls. We see the Catholic priests, and these nuns, these are children, fam. These are children. Like, they don't, and you ruin the lives of these people. Some of these people join the Lord, man. When you think about this, the patience of the Lord is incredible, bro. Like, the Lord is going to rock. He's going to repay. Think about all of the sexual sin the Lord is aware of. Like, right now, as you're watching my video, someone's committing adultery, someone's raping someone's harming a child sexually. Like, right as we're talking, this is all happening right now. Just as you and I just watch, we're just chilling. This is happening somewhere in the world right now. Maybe in your neighborhood, whatever. It's crazy, right? There is some connection between, so you got these priests who do this, so evangelical leaders, man. These dudes are pastors and they're supposed to know. I remember watching a video of this pastor like telling his congregation what happened like 20 years ago. And then a woman stood up and said, you know what? I was that girl. And she said, you took my virginity on the floor in your office. Again, let me just say this. I am not Moses coming down the mountain with 2 stone tablets. I got my own weaknesses. I'm grateful to God that this is not one of them. It's not a strong weakness for me. And what I mean by that is, like, I don't understand I don't even understand the psychology of forcing yourself on a woman. I just don't understand that. I don't understand that. Like, when this woman, she just rocked him, and this rocked him right in the con. I mean, he probably didn't think she was there. She punched him, analogically speaking, and her husband was with her. It's like she knew he was going to say that, and she said, "You did this to me. You did," and it was just like, wow, it went viral for a second. What is the deal with sex and religion? I mean, I can go on and on. Islam, Muhammad was said to have like sex with like young girls, like married like a 9-year-old girl, something crazy. I could be wrong. So if you're a Muslim, don't at me. And if you get offended, well, if you kill me, then I'll go be with the Lord. And then on Judgment Day, I'm going to ask the Lord, can I judge you back? You know what I'm saying? But the reality is, like, all these things have this. You look at the Mormons and just these people be marrying multiple women. I mean, Joseph Smith was getting busy. That long beard and that curly head was turning girls on. He was getting busy. They be marrying 5 and 6. What is the deal with sex and religion? You know, in the Bible, Paul says when a man sins sexually, he sins against his own body. Now think about that statement in light of the fact that people shoot drugs into their body, in their veins. People cut themselves. I know some people do a lot of harm to their physical bodies. And yet he says that is the only sin, sexual sin, where you sin against your own body. Despite all the things that we do to our bodies, that's the only one. What is the deal with sex and religion? I started this video off saying that I was grateful. I want to say why I'm grateful that Jesus didn't get married. And I've never been grateful for this before. It really hit me today when I was thinking about this. I'm grateful that Jesus, I know Paul didn't get married too, and there's other people. I'm grateful Jesus didn't get married. And Jesus would have had a great marriage. His wife would have been blessed, I'm sure, right? I'm glad that he didn't get married because Jesus represents a righteousness, a moral purity, a moral perfection. And as far as we know, now again, if he experienced real temptation, which he did, then it's not like he didn't see women that were beautiful. Apparently, Mary Magdalene was really pretty. I mean, she was a prostitute, but she also had 7 demons in her. Imagine taking her out to eat and having to pay for all 8 of them. Golly. She had 7 demons, right? Apparently, she was very attractive. It's not like Jesus didn't think they were, but you know what? This is what I love about Jesus. Jesus, they were children. You know when he said children, he called them little children. I'm here with you for a short time. Like Jesus understood who we really are, that we're children to him. For Jesus to have been married, it probably would have been like, I'm marrying a child. This is a child to me. These are people that I've created. They're children. But the fact that he didn't, it says a lot about sexuality. It says a lot about marriage and all of it. Now, he was obviously the bride. He was married to the bride, but it wasn't a sexual union. But Jesus not having sex and not being married says a lot about sexuality. That it really is a lower kingdom activity. We know that if you're of the Christian tradition like I am, that Jesus created sex between people. There's a number of reasons why. Procreation, pleasure, all these different things, right? Paul says, look, so that you don't sin in lust, burning in lust, it's better to marry than to burn. But the fact that Jesus didn't get married, it puts perspective on it, because you can't accuse Jesus of this. People could say whatever they want about Allah and all these other, Joseph Smith and all these other people, but the one thing that no one can ever accuse my Lord of is misappropriating some kind of sexual nonsense. No one can ever say anything about Jesus and try to slander him as some kind of sexual deviant. None of it. The best they can do is say that he agreed with sexuality, that the Bible clearly shows he does not. But you can never accuse him himself of being that way, because that wasn't a priority to him. It wasn't a priority. It's fascinating that all these religious people, these holy people, these people who claim to be the second coming of Christ, one of the first things they do is, or what's a part of their new religion, is to have sex with women. It's just fascinating to me. But Jesus didn't do that. Now, there's more that I feel like saying, but I'm not going to say it right now. I'll save it for a different video. But I'm grateful that Jesus wasn't married. And I'm grateful that there is no sexual activity that he had that no one can attribute anything to him. There was a purity. And this is why most people don't have bad things to say about Jesus. Isn't that interesting? Even Islam or other people, they don't say negative things about Jesus. They may not agree with that he is who he says he is. They don't say anything negative about Jesus. And I love that. I love that the God that I serve, you can't accuse him of stuff like that. There's nothing they can really accuse Jesus of, for real. They just don't believe he was God. Okay, cool. You'll see when the time comes if you don't agree with that beforehand. So again, there's some stuff I want to say. I'm not going to. I'm going to hold off on this video because I want to make a separate video that will come back to this particular point. But for now, I am glad that Jesus didn't get married, because when I see all these religious leaders, I'll say this, it sobers me because I'm not exempt. I'm not exempt. I don't speak from this from a standpoint of like, I would never do that. Listen, I tell people this all the time. David was a man after God's own heart. God told Samuel that before David was even king. Before Samuel even knew who David was, he said he's a man after God's own heart, right? And then David sinned with Bathsheba. David was the king of Israel, could have had any woman in the world, and he chose a married woman, had sex with her, and then had her husband killed to cover it up. If David, a man after God's own heart, is capable, I'm capable. It can happen to me. So I'm not saying I'm not capable. What I am saying is that I'm grateful. This sobers me as a pastor, as a man who has some authority that people look to, it's sobering to think that, man, this temptation is out there and it's easy to fall in this. And many men wish death upon me, blood. I just got a 50 Cent mode for a second. Many men have failed in this reality. And so I'm glad that the Lord and Savior Jesus, you can't accuse him of no sexual sins. And may that be true of every one of us, that we're just not giving into that. So for the Dalai Lama, I don't worship you. I don't know you. I don't know nothing about you except that that you're Dalai Lama, that you're 87, and that you told a 6-year-old boy to suck your tongue. Fam, not funny, not amusing, and with all the holiness that you got, you need to have some holy wisdom, because that was a dumb move. And it makes me wonder, though, would he be responding this way if he didn't get the backlash that he's getting? But what do I know? What do I know? I'm only making this video because I made a dumb challenge. No, it's actually not dumb. It's been fun. But I made a challenge to force myself, and so I got to come up with content every day. But I'm actually enjoying doing this. It's making me think about this more and more. So I appreciate you all. Just be serious, though. We got your mom, so hit the like button, or else she's gone. She's going to be with the Lord. Appreciate y'all, man. I'm Kirk Kennedy signing off. Stay away from the Dalai Lama. And if you want to visit him, don't bring your kids or grandchildren. Too soon, huh? Yeah, too soon. My bad.